A single climb up Mount Everest costs more than $70,000. That's nearly 4 years of average salary for most people, just to stand on top of the world for a few minutes. Some mountains kill with altitude, others kill with logistics bills. The world's most expensive peaks demand both your physical limits and a financial barrier that stops most climbers before they ever leave home. We're ranking the 5 mountains where the cost rivals the danger, where permits, transport, guides, and gear combine into a price tag that could buy a car, or a house, or change your life in a dozen other ways. And at number 1, the price tag exceeds what most people earn in 2 years. The Financial Everest before you face the physical one. Denali stands at 6,190 meters in the Alaska Range, North America's highest peak. The mountain dominates the subarctic landscape, visible for hundreds of kilometers across the tundra. The cost ranges from $10,000 to $15,000 for guided expeditions, significantly cheaper than the others on this list, but still a substantial investment for 3 weeks on a glacier. The climb itself is a war of attrition. 3 weeks across heavily glaciated terrain, hauling sleds loaded with food and fuel. Temperatures drop to -40 Celsius. Storms pin climbers in tents for days. Objective dangers include crevasses hidden under snow bridges and avalanches that sweep camps off the mountain. Alaska's remoteness drives the first cost. Base camp sits on the Kahiltna Glacier, accessible only by ski-equipped bush planes from Talkeetna. The flight costs around $400 per person, and weather delays are common. Every extra day waiting for a weather window adds hotel and food costs. Specialized cold weather gear is mandatory. Sleeping bags rated to -40, double-layered boots, expedition-grade tents that can withstand 100 km/h winds. Most climbers need to purchase or rent equipment they'll never use again, adding $2,000 to $3,000 to the total. The National Park Service requires registration and fees. Rangers monitor climbers through mandatory check-ins. Rescue operations are coordinated through Denali's high-altitude helicopter program, and insurance to cover potential evacuations is strongly recommended. Here's the Denali factor that justifies the cost. Despite being only 6,190 meters, the latitude creates thin air equivalent to 7,000+ meters at the equator. The mountain sits at 63 degrees north, where atmospheric pressure is lower than peaks of similar height near the tropics. Climbers face altitude sickness comparable to much higher Himalayan summits. Weather unpredictability demands longer expeditions. Most teams budget 21 days, but storms can extend that to 4 weeks. Every extra day increases food, fuel, and guide costs. Denali's summit success rate hovers around 50%, and weather is the primary reason for failure. The mountain sees around 1,000 climbers per year, making it one of the most attempted peaks in the world. The West Buttress route is the standard approach, a grinding ascent through 4 camps with increasing altitude and exposure. Fixed ropes are minimal compared to Himalayan giants, meaning climbers need solid mountaineering skills. Why it's expensive relative to height? The combination of extreme cold, high latitude thin air, and extended expedition duration. A 2-week climb in the Alps costs a fraction of Denali's price because you can drive to base camp and sleep in huts. Denali offers no such luxuries. Everything you need, you carry or pay to fly in. From Alaska's frozen wilderness, we cross the Pacific to an island peak that defies its modest elevation. Puncak Jaya stands at 4,884 meters in the Sudirman Range of Papua, Indonesia, the highest peak on any island on Earth, a limestone and ice pyramid rising from tropical rainforest visible from the coast on clear days. The cost ranges from $20,000 to $25,000, making it the most expensive mountain under 5,000 meters anywhere in the world. The climb itself is technically moderate, rock scrambling and some ice work, but nothing that requires advanced mountaineering skills. The challenge isn't the mountain, it's getting there. Extreme remoteness drives the first cost multiplier. Papua sits on the far eastern edge of Indonesia, accessible only through limited commercial flights to the provincial capital. From there, the real logistics nightmare begins. Charter flights and helicopter access are mandatory. No roads reach the mountain. No porter trails exist through the dense jungle. Everything and everyone must be flown in by helicopter through restricted military zones. Each flight costs thousands. and weather windows are narrow. Clouds blanket the region most days, grounding helicopters and adding expensive delays. Political instability necessitates security permits and escorts. Papua has experienced separatist conflict for decades. The Indonesian military controls access to the region, requiring climbers to obtain special permits beyond the standard climbing authorization. Each permit involves separate fees, processing times measured in months, and coordination with multiple government agencies. The permit nightmare is real. Indonesian government restrictions require federal climbing authorization. Indigenous land permissions demand negotiation with local tribes who control access routes. Military clearances involve security assessments and liaison officers who must accompany expeditions. Each layer adds administrative costs and uncertainty. Logistics multiply exponentially. Compared to accessible peaks, all gear and supplies must be flown in. No porter chains exist like in the Himalayas or Alaska. No resupply options if you run short. Weather windows are narrow because tropical storms can ground operations for weeks. Most expeditions budget 2 weeks but spend 3 due to delays. The Seven Summits effect keeps demand high. Puncak Jaya represents Oceania on the list of highest continental peaks. Climbers chasing the Seven Summits must include it, creating consistent demand despite the modest technical difficulty and astronomical cost. That demand allows operators to maintain premium pricing. Compare the value proposition. For the same $25,000, you could climb multiple 6,000-meter peaks in South America with far greater technical challenge, but none of them check the Seven Summits box. Geography creates the premium. The mountain sees fewer than 100 successful summits per year, not because it's difficult, but because few people can justify the cost for a peak barely higher than Mont Blanc. Those who do come are typically wealthy Seven Summits completionists or sponsored expeditions with corporate backing. From tropical Papua, we head to the roof of the world, where altitude and politics collide. Cho Oyu stands at 8,188 meters on the China-Nepal border in the Himalayas, the 6th highest mountain on Earth. The name means turquoise goddess in Tibetan, referring to the color of the ice at sunset. The cost ranges from $25,000 to $35,000 for full-service expeditions from the Tibet side, more expensive than technically harder peaks, and the reason has nothing to do with the mountain itself. The climb is considered the easiest of the 14 8,000-meter peaks, but easy is relative at this altitude. The route still demands acclimatization rotations, fixed ropes through steep sections, and high-altitude experience. Summit day involves 12 to 14 hours of climbing in the death zone above 8,000 meters. Most climbers use supplemental oxygen above 7,500 meters, adding $1,000 per bottle to the bill. You typically need 3 to 5 bottles for a safe ascent. Chinese permit fees drive the first cost spike. Tibet side permits are higher and more complex than Nepal's system. The Chinese Mountaineering Association controls access, charging premium rates and requiring extensive documentation. Processing takes months, and rejections happen without explanation or refund. The mandatory liaison officer adds $3,000 or more to expedition costs. This Chinese government official accompanies every team, ostensibly to ensure safety and environmental compliance. In practice, it's a monitoring system. The liaison officer's salary, food, equipment, and insurance all come from the expedition budget. Tibet-side logistics require special travel permits beyond the climbing authorization. Foreign climbers need restricted area permits to enter Tibet, travel permits to move between cities, and military clearances to access border regions. Each permit involves separate fees and bureaucratic delays. Expeditions hire Tibetan agencies to navigate the system, adding administrative costs. The political premium is real. Tibet expeditions involve Chinese government bureaucracy at every step. Military checkpoints dot the roads to base camp. Restricted travel zones limit movement. Communication is monitored. Photography is restricted. Every complication adds time and money. Here's the comparison point. Nepal side Cho Oyu is cheaper, but more technical. The Tibetan route trades money for a gentler climbing angle and better infrastructure. Chinese base camp has permanent facilities, cell phone coverage, and road access. Nepal side requires a longer trek and steeper climbing, but costs $10,000 less. Why Cho Oyu costs more than harder peaks comes down to the Tibet factor. Political complications inflate every logistical step. K2 in Pakistan is far more dangerous and technical, but Pakistani permits cost less and bureaucracy is lighter. Cho Oyu's price reflects Chinese control over access, not the mountain's difficulty. The mountain sees around 150 successful summits per year from the Tibet side. Most are commercial expeditions with clients paying for the easier route and better logistics. The success rate is high, around 60%, because the technical demands are manageable and weather windows are predictable. From the Himalayas, we travel to the most remote continent on Earth, where everything costs more because nothing is close. Mount Vinson stands at 4,892 meters in the Sentinel Range of the Ellsworth Mountains, Antarctica, the continent's highest peak. A pyramid of ice rising from the White Desert, surrounded by nothing but frozen emptiness for thousands of kilometers. The cost ranges from $35,000 to $50,000, making it the second most expensive mountain on Earth, despite being a technically straightforward climb. No rock climbing, no technical ice, just snow slopes and brutal cold. The climb itself is moderate by mountaineering standards. The standard route follows snow and ice slopes that rarely exceed 40 degrees. No crevasse fields like Denali, no avalanche-prone faces. The mountain doesn't kill with objective danger, it kills with environment. 24-hour daylight during the climbing season, temperatures dropping to minus 40 Celsius. Katabatic winds screaming down from the polar plateau at 150 kilometers per hour. The cold is relentless, penetrating every layer of insulation, turning simple tasks into ordeals. The Antarctica premium drives every cost higher. Nothing exists on the continent except ice and research stations. No roads, no infrastructure, no rescue services beyond what expeditions bring themselves. Everything costs more because everything must be imported from thousands of kilometers away. Transport to Antarctica is the first massive expense. Charter flights from Punta Arenas, Chile to Union Glacier Base Camp cost $15,000 or more per person. The flight crosses the Drake Passage, 6 hours over the Southern Ocean in a ski-equipped cargo plane. Weather delays are common. Storms can ground flights for days or weeks. Every delay at Union Glacier costs hundreds in food, fuel, and staff time while you wait for a weather window. From Union Glacier, smaller ski-equipped planes fly climbers to Vinson Base Camp. Another flight, another weather dependency, another cost. The entire transport chain is fragile. Miss one window and you're stuck, burning money while the clock runs. Cost driver number 2 is the weather delay factor. Expeditions budget 2 weeks for the climb, but 3 weeks is common. Every extra day at Union Glacier costs money. The base operates like a small city on ice with heated tents, meals, and logistical support. None of it is free. Daily rates add up fast when storms pin you down. Cost driver number 3 is the monopoly effect. Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions controls nearly all commercial access to the interior. They own the planes, run Union Glacier, and coordinate permits. No competition means they set the prices. Climbers pay what they charge or don't go. The environmental factor adds administrative costs. The Antarctic Treaty requires comprehensive waste management. Every gram of trash must be carried out. Environmental impact assessments are mandatory. Strict protocols govern human waste, fuel storage, and equipment disposal. Compliance costs money, and violations can result in expedition cancellations and future bans. Why it's worth the price comes down to exclusivity and landscape. Vinson is one of the 7 summits, the must-climb list for mountaineering completionists. Antarctica's otherworldly environment is unlike anywhere else on Earth. Blue ice stretching to the horizon, mountains untouched by vegetation or wildlife, silence so complete you hear your own heartbeat. The mountain sees around 100 successful summits per year, far fewer than Everest or Denali. The cost filters out casual climbers. Those who come are serious mountaineers with serious budgets, chasing the 7 summits or simply wanting to stand on the bottom of the world. From the frozen south, we return to the Himalayas, to the mountain that started it all. Mount Everest stands at 8,849 meters on the Nepal-Tibet border, the world's highest point. The mountain that defines mountaineering ambition and drains bank accounts faster than any other peak on Earth. The cost ranges from $33,000 to $130,000 depending on service level. The widest price spread of any mountain. Budget Sherpa-led expeditions start around $33,000. Mid-range Western operators charge $55,000 to $75,000. Luxury expeditions with premium support exceed $100,000. Some climbers spend $130,000 for the ultimate safety margin. The permit alone costs $15,000 per climber for the spring season, up from $11,000 in 2024. But that's just the beginning. Mandatory fees push base cost to $24,500 before you leave Kathmandu. Trash deposit adds $4,000, refundable only if you bring everything back down. Liaison officer fee adds $3,000 per team. Insurance and rescue coverage are mandatory, another $2,000 minimum. The climb itself is technically moderate via the South Col route. Fixed ropes cover most dangerous sections. Ladders bridge the Khumbu icefall. Camps are established by Sherpas before clients arrive, but moderate doesn't mean safe. The altitude kills even experienced climbers. The crowds create bottlenecks where people die waiting in line. The objective dangers, collapsing seracs, avalanches, sudden storms, don't care about your experience level. Breaking down the cost tiers reveals what money buys on Everest. Budget expeditions assume you're already an expert. You get basic logistics, a tent at base camp, and Sherpa support for carrying loads. Everything else is on you. Mid-range Western operators add safety redundancy, better food, more oxygen bottles, experienced Western guides, comprehensive medical support. Luxury expeditions provide one-to-one Sherpa ratios, premium meals, satellite communication, and the best equipment money can buy. The hidden costs multiply fast. Oxygen bottles cost $1,000 each. You need 5 to 7 for a safe ascent. That's $7,000 just to breathe. Gear rental adds thousands if you don't own expedition-grade equipment. Tips for Sherpas and support staff run $1,000 to $2,000. Extra hotel nights in Kathmandu during weather delays add up. Satellite phone calls home cost $10 per minute. Why Everest is the most expensive comes down to demand outstripping supply. Hundreds of climbers compete for the same weather windows in May. Sherpa wages have risen as teams bid for the best high-altitude workers. Logistics costs increase as base camp becomes a temporary city requiring massive resupply chains. The mountain's fame creates artificial scarcity where operators can charge premium rates because people will pay anything for the summit. The accessibility paradox is real. Despite being the most expensive, Everest sees more climbers than any other 8,000-meter peak. Over 600 people reached the summit in 2023. The mountain is the ultimate bucket list item. People mortgage houses, drain retirement accounts, and take second jobs to afford it. The financial barrier is high, but the psychological pull is higher. The total bill for a realistic full-service Everest expedition is $60,000 to $80,000. Luxury options exceed 6 figures. That's enough to buy a house in many countries, enough to fund a child's college education, enough to change a life in a dozen different ways. But for those chasing the summit, no other purchase compares. Climbing all 5 of these peaks would cost $150,000 to $250,000, the price of multiple houses in most of the world. The mountains don't care about your bank account, but your bank account determines which mountains you can attempt. Extreme mountaineering remains a sport for the wealthy or the heavily sponsored. The Financial Everest exists before you ever face the physical one. Which of these peaks would you climb if money were no object? Drop your answer below and check out this video next to see how these costs compare to the deadliest 8,000-meter peaks.